Historical rankings and the legacy of failure. From the very start of his tenure, Donald Trump's presidency has faced harsh scrutiny when measured against the traditional benchmarks of American leadership. In numerous surveys conducted by presidential historians and political scientists, Trump was ranked among the lowest, placing him in stark contrast with figures such as Abraham Lincoln or Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose presidencies are celebrated for unifying the nation in times of crisis. His relatively poor performance in these historical rankings is a function of both the tumultuous nature of his leadership and the lack of enduring achievements that signal effective governance. For many, his legacy is not one of progress or meaningful reform, but of missed opportunities and an abandonment of the ideals that once defined the office. Disruption of democratic norms. One of the most critical factors that have led critics to label Trump as the worst president is his repeated assault on the foundational norms of American democracy. Rather than respecting the established protocols of executive power, Trump frequently challenged the legitimacy of the electoral process and undermined key democratic institutions. His insistence on disputing election outcomes, even in the face of clear evidence and judicial confirmation, eroded public trust in the electoral system. Furthermore, his combative rhetoric and actions have left a legacy of weakened institutional checks and balances, undermining the very structures meant to preserve democratic governance. This disregard for democratic conventions has been seen as not only irresponsible, but also dangerous in its potential to encourage future leaders to act in similarly self-serving ways. Policy missteps and economic controversies. Trump's approach to policy and governance was characterized by rapid, unilateral decision-making that often sidelined expertise and long-term planning. His administration embraced deregulation and tax reforms as hallmarks of a populist economic strategy. However, gains from these policies were frequently overshadowed by greater economic uncertainty. Critics argue that his economic policies were inconsistent and occasionally detrimental to the nation's long-term interests. In the international arena, his confrontational stance on trade and global alliances alienated longtime partners and contributed to an environment of instability, creating ripple effects that continue to reverberate in discussions about America's role on the world stage. The resulting economic volatility has cast long shadows over his tenure, raising doubts about his commitment to sustainable national growth. Legal and ethical controversies. Trump's presidency is also notorious for the myriad legal and ethical controversies that punctuated his time in office. Throughout his tenure, the president was frequently at the center of investigations and legal disputes. The widespread documentation of misleading statements, numbering in the tens of thousands, provided a stark illustration of his departure from traditional presidential candor. This pattern of misinformation fostered a climate where truth became increasingly malleable, undermining public confidence in the leadership of the nation. Moreover, his personal business practices, a history filled with bankruptcies, litigious encounters, and accusations of fraudulent behavior, combined with contentious personal conduct, further eroded his credibility as a leader. These ethical lapses have not only tarnished the office of the presidency, but have also raised serious concerns about the standards to which the nation's chief executive should be held. Societal polarization and the erosion of national unity. Perhaps more lasting than any single policy or legal misstep is the deep societal division that took root during Trump's presidency. His leadership style, which was often combative and divisive, amplified existing fractures within the nation. Rather than fostering an environment of inclusivity and dialogue, his rhetoric frequently inflamed partisan tensions, creating a polarized landscape where compromise became nearly impossible. This polarization has had enduring effects on the national discourse, setting the stage for ongoing conflict over issues ranging from immigration and healthcare to environmental policy and civil rights. The culture of divisiveness that emerged is not easily reversed. It continues to challenge the nation's capacity to find common ground even long after his departure from office. A lasting legacy of discord and instability. Trump's time in office is often cited as a period marked by discord and instability. His leadership, defined by a prioritization of personal ambition over public duty, has left an indelible mark on the national psyche. Institutions that once commanded unwavering respect now face heightened scrutiny and diminished trust. Meanwhile, the erosion of ethical standards and the embrace of a culture of misinformation have weakened the moral authority of the presidency. In this light, many argue that his legacy is one not of progress or unity, but rather of decay in the pillars of American governance. Lessons for the future. The critical analysis of Trump's presidency serves as a stark reminder of the vital importance of ethical leadership, adherence to democratic norms, and the safeguarding of institutions that underpin the American experiment in self-governance. As the nation continues to grapple with the after-effects of his term in office, it becomes increasingly clear that the challenges faced today are, in many respects, direct consequences of a presidency that placed personal and partisan interests above the common good. Reflecting on these lessons is essential for guiding future leaders and ensuring that the principles of transparency, accountability, and unity are not sacrificed at the altar of political expediency. While debates over presidential legacies remain inherently subjective, the evidence presented by critics and scholars paints a picture of a presidency marred by inefficiency, ethical lapses, and a reckless approach to governance. Whether one views his time in office as a cautionary tale or as a deliberate departure from the norms of previous administrations, it is undeniable that the impact of his leadership has reshaped American politics in profound and, to many, deeply troubling ways.